Hi, this is Johnny Vasha. I completed my BE Electronics and Communication in BMS College of Engineering in Bangalore. Today I am going to give a presentation on mainly Spring and the basic needs for the Spring to develop any Java application. So we'll start with the Spring. Spring is a lightweight container and also and also object-oriented framework container. Spring is a lightweight container because I have already explained the lightweight. When it comes to the size and transparency, this is very light, and the basic version of Spring is around 2 MB, and also processing overhead is also negligible in Spring, and also components widely reusable and separately packaged in the Springs. So that's why we are using this Spring application framework. And also this is Spring is created by Rod Johnson. This is based mainly on the expert on one-to-one J2W design and development. And also why do we need Spring? Why do we need Spring? Wiring of component, that is dependency injection. Dependency injection I will explain it later. Wiring of components, like we have a lot of classes, application classes and configuration file. So we can encapsulate it in one independently and can communicate with each other. So for that we are using Spring here, and also we have declarative programming without J2W. Without J2W we can configure the transaction objects, and multiple objects also can be created without the J2W aspect. And also we have a simple use of popular technologies like ORM technologies, transaction management, automatic key generation in the ORM file, and also AOP model. We can simplify use of some popular technologies also. And also we have and also this Spring can convert the checked exception into unchecked exception. Checked exception is about the program. At the runtime we cannot check the actual exceptions or errors. As usually programmer or user cannot check these type of exception. This Spring converts the checked exception to unchecked exception, so that programmer can easily fix the bug and detect the errors and eliminate the errors. And also this is very well designed and flexible, so that other application classes and other Pojo classes also can communicate it with each other independently and wire them together. And this figure shows the entire Spring framework, which are the models containing in the Spring framework. We have mainly 7. I have classified into 7 modules of it. First one is the Spring core. Second one is Spring aspect oriented module, ORM module, and web application module, JDBC and DAO data access object, and also Spring context. Last is the Spring web MVC pattern. Also it supports the Spring. Mainly we start with the Spring core container. This is the fundamental functionality of the Spring framework. It supports the basic Java utilities. Here bean factory. Here bean container contains in the core container of the Spring. Here the bean factory is the heart of the Spring, any Spring based application. And we can add as many as beans here, as many as simple Java beans in the configuration file with the use of XML configuration file, that is spring.xml. And also second one is about application context model. Application context model is the second module of the Spring framework. It supports the UI supports and also validation. If you want the request comes from the application, this will support in user interface support, and also validation for validation purpose. Also this module will generate the validation support. And also we have AOP module. This module is used for developing the aspects. In any Spring based application. It supports mainly the mapping metadata. Mapping metadata means the configuration file, the XML configuration file have a lot of mappings out there. For example, mapping the ORM. We'll take a ORM, like mapping objects classes into database tables. Like this, we have a metadata in the AOP module, and also we have different AOP module is there, but this will comes under, if you depend upon the application, we can use this module. This module helps us to helps us to add the annotation in the metadata. Annotation pods and everything will comes under this Spring AOP model, and we have JDBC and data access object module is there. This will provide the supports of transaction infrastructure and also the JDBC support. If you want to connect from the Java classes to the database, this module is very helpful for the JDBC support. And also we have a Spring Framework. Spring Framework comes with a specialized feature with different types of ORM works. That is, for example, we have Hibernate. Hibernate, it will support the Hibernate ORM framework, and IBATIS, and also JDB support. What will happen in the ORM Spring Framework ORM, when you want to deal with the database, if you want to map from the Java objects into database, this module is very helpful for that function. And also we have a Spring Web Application. Spring came with important feature, that is web application. If you want to create any web application, this module is very helpful for creating an context and web application descriptors and all. And also we have a resolver also, multi-part resolver. We can define multi request can comes into this web application, and that will be accessed by this module. And also we have lastly Spring Web MVC pattern. Spring has also supports a very important feature for developing any web application using MVC architecture. In the MVC architecture, we have mainly the struts Spring MVC, because MVC framework is mainly depends upon the separation of presentation logic and the controller and even the model part, that is flow of data that manages the data from the client to the browser. This module supports for the developing of any MVC pattern application. This figure shows the how the Spring application will create for each and every modules. If you want to send in, for example, if you want to send any mail, that will create a request for a form request to the controllers handling form interaction, that is handling which form is interaction here, and also that will resolve the handle file upload. If you want to upload after accessing the request, it will upload the file, and it will binds the data. It will binds the data to the domain model, that is the flow of data. How domain model is nothing but a business logic. What the processing of request, which request is responsible for which response. That is, and also it will deals with this JSP. Integration with JSP is about the presentation logic. This, if you want, the user wants to see the result in the browser, for that we are using this JSP. This is about the MVC patterns, how the Spring MVC model comes under while sending an email. And also, so other modules are there, describes in different forms, depend upon the applications. We use this type of other modules for Spring Framework, other modules. And also, I have already explained about what is dependency injection. Dependency injection mainly supports. It mainly contains inversion of control. That is, I used to explain dependency injection with an example. As a word is there for in the Hollywood principle, like don't call me, I will call you, because they don't give their dependencies. They will give dependencies to other objects instead of creating or looking for other dependent objects. For example, we have a dependency injection. I will explain dependency injection with an example. We have two parts. Let's take two parts like dependency and injection or other part. Dependency part translates translates it into association between two classes. For example, we have class A and class B. Class A is dependent on class B. This part comes under the dependency and injection. Injection part, we have like class B. Class B will get injected into class A. That is, class B properties can be injected into class B, so that these classes can be separately packaged and stored in independently and keeping them independent, as opposed to the container. Container also resolves dependencies of components by setting implementation object, and also dependency as opposed to component instantiated or destroying a service locator pattern where component locates implementation. Like dependencies need to have can happen only in the way of passing the parameters using constructor or post constructor by using setter or getter methods. Like this, we can get the dependency injection in the Spring configuration file. We have mainly the dependency injection variants are there. We can get the dependency injection using constructor based and setter and getter methods. Mainly, I already told in the core container of Spring, we have a bean factory. Bean factory is the heart of this any Spring based application. Provides configuration framework. We need to import two packages for initialization with and wire Java beans. If you want to encapsulate those Java beans, for that we need to import these two packages like org.springframework.beans and org.springframework.context. These are the two packages very necessary for importing in the configuration file with the help of the bean factory. And also typically we use XML bean factory in the application part so that it can wire the objects into this configuration file. And also bean factory configured components and do not have Spring any because this inversion of control give their dependencies on other objects rather than creating or looking for dependent objects. Beans we also configured the beans in the configuration file with the help of like beans or the instances of bean factory or singletons by default. In the configuration file we have XML configuration. For that only beans or singletons by default. No need to change any values for that. Properties may be simple values or references to other Java beans. It also supports built-in support for defining lists, sets and maps for the different types of collections in Spring application. We'll start with how the bean is created here. We can create the bean with different instantiation. First one is the direct instantiation. This is the syntax. This is the syntax for bean creation. This is a bean ID with any bean ID and which is the class name. Class name for creating a bean. And also second one is the bean factory instantiation. In this the same syntax is applicable for this, but class is subclass of the bean factory. And also we can create a bean using static bean factory, that is factory. The bean ID is equal to bean ID, class is the class name of the application class, and also factory method is equal to static creation method. And also we can create a bean using instance factory method. These are optional, no need to use for any creating an object, because when dealing with any complex Java application, this will be very helpful for instance factory methods. And also we already have this design patterns in Java application. Whenever you are dealing with any design patterns, for that factory method pattern is a proxy pattern. For that it is very helpful for it. And also we have auto wiring. Auto wiring means that is encapsulation of different classes. I already told about the dependency injection. We have 2 or 3 classes. We can wire them into a single class. For that we have 4 parameters are there. Beans can be auto wired using the name. That is with the property name we can auto wire. This will configured in the configuration file. This Spring configuration file, that is spring.xml. If you want to create any spring.xml, you can give it the name with bean.xml. And also we have auto wire type. This is which type of the class we are using here, and also constructor. With the help we are using dependency injection with constructor initialization and also auto detect. Where if you want to check any dependency injection, for that ensues properties of per bean attribute dependency verifies what are auto wiring components are there in the spring.xml file. For that we have we can check the dependency injection with the using of this Spring framework. We have mainly three parameters, that is simple, object and all. If you declare simple, then if per bean only one class is wired in that XML configuration file. If you have object in the class, we have different types of object. Per object we can create we can check the dependency injection. And also we have a lifecycle customization. Lifecycle customization can define init method called after properties are set. After properties are set in the Spring XML configuration file, with the using of this syntax, init method is equal to method in, which method you want to initialize for initialization purpose. And also if you want to destroy method, can destroy method as shutdown it. If you want, after completion of bean creation and Spring application, if you are that time we need to create this destroy method, that is which method name for destroying the that is Spring application. That is for lifecycle customization. Lastly, I will explain about the application context. What are application context and how application context extends the concept of bean factory in here, and also the functional of bean factory. It will pre-instantiates the Java beans, that is singleton beans, and also we have it detects and registers bean post process and bean factory post process. We have also this. There are some other points are the application user listeners, and whenever dealing with the UI support, that is user defined user interface. That is we have like swings. We are using swings here. That time application listener and application event should be initialized and closed predefined. And also lastly we have it supports mainly the message source, provides internationalization messaging. That time this is the syntax for providing any message resource. That is bean ID is equal to message source and class. In that class we have a resource bundle message resource. If you want to create any message resource for internationalization messages, for that application context is very helpful. This is all about Spring and entire framework. I have explained only about the application context. Thank you.